workshop about the artist's way. I am, of course, Max Randolph. I'm assuming you know me because you're here. But please, I would love for you all to meet Damian Skinner, a great friend of mine. Please, Damien.
Yeah, super happy to be here. Big fan of Max and his work, and we connected a little bit ago. Found out that his heart and my heart really aligned with using creativity to help people heal and help people recover from trauma. And so this is a journey that I have been on now. This is my either 22nd or 23rd time to teach this class. I'm so excited to do this, Max, with you personally. And then your idea of having everybody join in, I think, is both gracious and awesome.
Might as well
It's
share
going
it,
to be great.
right? It's
Yeah,
going to be awesome.
it is.
I'm both a little scared and excited at the same time. I think I'm just excited.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a weird nervousness that goes along anytime people decide to develop themselves really in anything. But for some reason in the creative space, and we'll get into that in the book. We know the reasons why. It's because the way we're raised. People get so nervous, like we're doing something scandalous or selfish or egotistical by even showing up to talk about creativity. People get a lot of weird emotions just showing up to have the conversation. For me, I always felt like I wasn't worthy to be creative. And that's a big issue for a lot of creatives, is a sense of worth. So even now, with this being, like I said, 22nd, 23rd time, my blood pressure is up. I feel like, because I'm going through this book with you. I do this once a year because I need it, you know. So yeah, and for those of you that are watching, I jokingly refer to this book as an assassin. Like, there is no getting through this book without turning over some, yeah, the ninja book. This book will get you. It will find the things that you're hiding kind of in your heart and in your mind about your creative process. So, I would say you should feel a little nervous. I think that's a reasonable response.
Perfect. Well, yeah, when you sell it like that, my goodness, because
Right.
I know there's tons of material out there that will help unlock certain parts of yourself, but the
Sure.
way that this has been upheld as a pretty universally significant piece of literature,
Yeah.
I'm really excited to go on this journey, and also I'm really excited to take you all on the journey with us. I think it's going to be exceptional. So where do
Yeah.
we begin?
Well, I think the best way is, let me give a general introduction to myself and kind of let you know how I came about this book, because it was absolute pure magic. Okay. So give me a few minutes and I'll tell my first Artist Way journey. I was a youth pastor. For those of you that, there was no way that you would know this, but Max knows. I was born in California, and then my parents moved to the South. They were pastors in a little country town, like charismatic, non-denominational. I grew up in that. Became a minister at like 14. Started traveling and speaking and doing all that stuff. And a friend of mine, when I was like 19 or 20, I was a youth pastor at a church, and he kept begging me to read this book because he knew that I wanted to make movies. And I could not figure out how to go from being a very conservative, demon chasing minister. Like, we were radical. We were super, super radical. And I'll talk about this a lot. It's not meant to offend anyone. It's just my past. Um, I couldn't figure out how to make the jump from that to filmmaking. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? And he kept
yeah.
trying to help me. And finally, I took the book. My friend's name is Jamie Leake. He's an illustrator. He lives in LA. The guy's amazing, prolific, creative, has been since 8th grade. And I went home, I read the introduction, and I instantly choked on it, because the very first thing that it starts talking about is your inner child, your wounded inner child. And I was like, well, this is bullshit. I'm out. Like, just straight up, I wasn't going to have anything to do with it. Um, Waited a few months. It's sitting there on my desk because I respect Jamie and his creativity so much. I came back to it. And then I got to something that we're going to talk about at length, called Morning Pages. Um, The next morning, now I'm already married. I married super young. I'm in this church. I'm in a very conservative world. I get up the next morning and I do morning pages, which I'm not going to talk about what that is yet. Go off to work, do my thing. I know that I always have hooks. And then I come back home and my wife's making dinner and it's like 6 o'clock. And I'm like, I'm exhausted. I have no idea why I'm so tired. I'm going to go take a nap. I lay down. I instantly slip into the deepest sleep I had ever had in my life. And I had a very specific dream that I remember to this day. I was sitting in the theater, it was completely empty. This was back when theaters were everything, and we went to theaters for everything. Um, and I was holding a remote control that was about this big. It was comical, it was huge. And I had a thing of popcorn and Sour Patch Kids, which has always been my jam. I need that, or I can't fully immerse into the world, right? Um, and I'm watching this movie, and I would fast forward, and the whole screen would fast forward, and then I'd hit play, and I watched this whole movie unfold, beginning, middle, end, everything. My wife is trying to wake me up, and I don't want this to freak anybody out. It was my experience. But I finally wake up and she's like shaking me. She was freaking out. My eyes were open. I was looking right at her, but I was sound asleep, like in a trance. I jumped up. I wrote it out. It turned out to be the first script that I ever wrote and that I ever sold. And it was called Christopher's Dream. Um, I was hooked. I was hooked. And I'm telling you, within 6 months, I had been accepted into editing school, had been given the money to go to editing school, had gone to editing school, and had a job as an editor at a post house within 6 months of that first dream. My whole life just went whoop in what
Wow.
felt like seconds. I didn't have to figure out how to get out of my ministry position, out of church. All of these things just kind of naturally worked out. And I kept doing morning pages. And I've taught it once a year ever since. It was, to this day, I can't fully explain. And a few things I want to explain to people that are, I think some people are still jumping on too. I want everybody to get a few thoughts out of their mind. I don't know if it helps you, but I want to explain a lot of what this isn't. Okay. This is not how to produce more art. This is not about how to be more productive, but you will be insanely more productive. But that's not the goal. This is not learn how to be creative. You're going to find more creativity, but that's not the goal. The goal of this book is specifically for you to find the blocks that are keeping you from doing what you know good and well you want to be doing.
And we all got them.
Oh, buddy.
Like I trip and fall over. I spend my entire life being creative, and I know there's already a bunch of roadblocks that I constantly trip over, and I'm actually kind of worried that I'm going to uncover a bunch more
You're going
good
to. You're going
out
to.
there.
That's why we're here, man. Like buckle up.
Oh,
But it's fun. It's an adventure. If you're familiar with the term hero's journey and that kind of thing, you're literally, this is the call to adventure right now. And anyone that's watching this either live or in the future, however you're going to watch this, I want you to look at this as a call to adventure. I want you to accept failure. I don't know anyone that's ever finished this book. Like, I'm going to tell you right now, and you've
we're going to
never
be the
heard
first.
this. I've never finished this book. I have never sat down and read this book from beginning to end. And this will be I'm just going to say 23rd time so I don't keep going back and forth.
Unreal.
I use it as a reference. We only need to read the first couple of pieces of this. And then the rest of it are exercises that are going to unlock things in your mind and in your heart. And what everybody does, and this is the first thing, Max, if you remember, I told you, typically my graduating class, if you want to call it that, at the end, it's less than half of the people that started. The other half have gotten so busy writing, painting, doing whatever the hell they want to do. They're like, dude, I'll come back. And Julia Cameron, the author of this book, she's prolific. She's still alive. She's kind of like a grandma to millions of creatives now. And she even says the same thing. This is not a book that you read from beginning to end. You take it chapter by chapter. You go as far as you want to go. And all I ask that people commit to is doing 2 of the exercises. Now, if you do others, it's going to be awesome for you, but there's 2 exercises. It's morning pages, which we'll talk about, and the artist date. Those 2 exercises just by themselves will put you on a course that, in my opinion, it was a course that I dreamed of and I didn't know how to get there. Yes, I'm looking at some of the pick your own adventure, choose your own adventure. That's exactly what it's like. You get going, and then you're going to start finding your own path. So, guys, this isn't a religion. We're not charging. There's no conversion point here. There's no upsell. Bounce out of this when you're ready to go create, but be mindful of how much resistance you have just in the stuff we're going to talk about today, because the elements in your mind, those blocks, they don't want to be messed with.
No.
They don't want you jacking with them. They're there to protect you. They think they're helping you. And so
Mhm.
you're going to feel resistance as we go through this book, you know.
That sounds
Um,
gnarly, buddy.
it's not exactly something that you do lightly. And I guess the
Yeah.
reason I bring kind of a weight to it is that I want people to feel free to experiment, free to leave and come back. I've had people that do morning pages and get pissed, and they're like, F this, I'm not doing it. And they're gone for like 2 weeks. And then they come back and they're like, dude, this is awesome. I need to keep going. You do you. Okay. Just bring the respect to it that has helped literally millions of people become more prolific creators. And just respect that on the other side of some discovery and pain is everything that you want. Like, Max, I'm going to talk directly to you, right? Like, you're already such a prolific creator. I know you don't like to hear it. That's part of the issue. Don't worry, there's a whole chapter on it. We're going to get you. But there's other things that you know that you dream of. When you're at night in your hot tub, staring at the stars, there's things that you want to do that you're not
Definitely.
pursuing. And the only thing that's keeping you from doing that is a couple of difficult conversations. And this book will walk us through those conversations.
I'm excited because I've been a professional creator for good, a solid 20 years now.
Yeah.
And there's so many things. I got ants in my pants. There's so many things that I want to create, but it's so easy to talk myself out of because of bills, because I couldn't have chosen a more expensive medium.
No
You
doubt.
know, how much it costs for me to express myself. So if I can somehow get over those hurdles and really launch forward creatively,
Yeah.
I'm here for it, buddy. And also
Yeah.
thank you for your time. Thank you for taking us on your like being a Sherpa, a spiritual creative Sherpa for us.
Well, I that's a compliment and I appreciate it only because I've learned to appreciate it. That kind of stuff makes me uncomfortable too. But I will tell everyone here, and I'm not just saying this, I've got a nonprofit that Max is working with me on that helps children. We can talk about that in another time. I need this class and I need it right now. This is a in case of emergency, break glass. Like, take the book out, like, hold, yeah, exactly, and pull it out. And I was gonna do this anyway. Being able to do
Okay.
it with you and with your audience and the people that you're allowing me to connect with, the energy that's here will be
Yeah.
prolific. Let me let me move into one other area. Now, there's a big aspect to the artist way that can be really difficult for people. So I'm a pretty blunt guy. The more excited I get, I tend to cuss. So I apologize ahead of time. But as I get excited, you're going to see me get excited. Um, but the area that a lot of people struggle with is this whole book is a spiritual minded book. Don't hang up. Don't close out. There's no conversion. There's no offering. There's no tithe. This is not a religion. But I have taught this class with entire groups of atheists. And all that you need to do for this book to work, if you're already a spiritual minded person, buckle in. You're going to love this, dude. If you're a religious person, and that is not always the same thing, You can be both. This book is going to be a little bit challenging for you if you're of a traditional religious mindset. If
Mm.
you're an atheist, which like I said, I've taught it with people. I'm in the film business. The vast majority of people I work with are either energy hippies that I refer to them as, and they love it, or they're atheists, right? Um, you only have to come to terms with one thing: be willing to allow some form of creative force to have an impression on you. That's it. That's
Okay,
it.
I like that. Yeah, like it doesn't
We
matter its origins, but
no,
it's an undeniable force.
that's
I
right.
like that, dude.
We
I'm
don't
not
have to
really
name
confused.
it. Yeah, we don't have to name it. We sure as heck don't have to package it and turn it into a thing, and that's what I love. Julia Cameron used to have certification programs for teachers and all this, and she was like, this is headed towards cultiness. So she just ended all of that. And all of these groups all over the world are just independently organized. There is no structure. So I'm going to go ahead, and what I hope to get through today, for those of you that have the book, I was hoping to get through the introduction. That's about 24 pages, and I'm just going to hit highlights.
Okay.
The biggest first step is understanding that creativity is not something outside of you that you obtain. It's not. That is how we've been raised. Most of us, those of us that are here in America, in a Western world, capitalism, money, commercial art, we're raised to believe that we have to be inspired to create. That's a big one for me. That's a real big one for me. We're raised that we have to have a structure to our creativity, and mostly that it's outside of us. And that is a massive lie that has caused us. Why do you think so many creatives are alcoholics, drug addicts? We use these things, and I'm talking about myself. We use
Yeah.
these things to loosen ourselves up so we can receive something. But there's nothing to receive. It is internal. It's flowing from us. So I want to look at, because there's so many awesome comments already.
I know. I've been reading them.
I'm glad. I want to address some of these comments. Let me just say this one thing. There is no separation between you, Max, and the great creator. I like to use the term the great creator. Call it
Okay.
what you want. There is no difference. And we know in every major religion, we're even taught that we're created in the image of a creator. Okay. So for those of you that are religious and spiritual, we're already told we're created in the image of a great creator. It's not outside of us. There's nothing to obtain. The creator, the energy is inside of us to create. We have layered it down and press it down. And over time, we just allow it to come out in a few twisted, weird ways, typically using drugs, alcohol, sex, different ways to get that out of us. Right?
Yeah.
So,
So, Damien, if that's actually really fascinating because, and I've talked about this on other lives and things like that, and you're going to learn a lot about Max through this. So, um, but it's really interesting that you say it comes from within because I grew up in a lot of abuse. We've discussed that a little bit, but we'll probably dive deeper into it.
mhm,
And that forced me kind of inward, and
yeah,
that helped me find so much creativity there because I was able to create worlds that were way more interesting than what was all around me.
yeah.
So that's already speaking super true to at least my experience.
It it is. Now, I don't know what happened. I was seeing comments for a while, but now I don't see any comments. So, um,
Yeah, they're back.
Max, do you want to address some of the comments real quick that you can see, or
What's
tell me some of
beautiful
the
is I see a
comments?
lot of familiar faces, which makes me super happy.
Right on.
But yeah, a lot of them are discussing, mornings aren't great. What do you say to that, Damien? Because a lot of them, it's like they need at least a half an hour to kind of shake the cobwebs out.
Yeah. Uh, I am not a morning person. I do not appreciate the morning. Like a lot of people get up and they stretch and they meditate in the morning sun, and I'm over there like drinking my coffee. Like I'm not a fan. Um, if you have a morning, I'm self-employed, so I can set some of my schedule, like you, right? But for those of us that have a 9 to 5 or whatever it is, we got to get to work. Let me just address the morning page issue because they're asking that about the morning pages.
Yeah.
There is no purpose in doing these pages any other time of day. That's how important the morning is. Now, before we all like really panic about that, you'd be amazed at how you can fit. And here's how you're supposed to do it. And, we're jumping ahead, but that's okay. You're supposed to get up out of bed, use the bathroom, get some whatever you're going to drink, and then sit down and write free association and just write. Now, get ready because this is where people freak out. You're supposed to do 3 full pages of that. Most people don't, and that's okay. Remember, we're after the exercise, not perfection. You're not being graded. Who cares? But what happens is your mind is structured to protect you. And a lot of people forget this. Evolutionary process, your mind is structured to protect you. So everything that caused you pain when you were little, like a big brother ripping up your drawing, a mom telling you to stop screwing around and get serious, a dad, a teacher, a friend, all those moments, your brain, the little reptile brain goes, well, that freaking sucked. I don't want that again. And so it's constantly protecting you going, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Here's the reason morning pages work. And they've now, since she wrote this book, they've scientifically been able to show this.
Interesting. Through like MRIs and things like that?
MRIs, yeah. And when you get up in the morning, the first thing that you think about, especially if you wake up to an alarm, that's a number. 7 o'clock. Meh, meh, meh. That's a number. You go into the kitchen, you go get your coffee, you set a timer, you do this. You are now into number space. I got to get to work. I've got 10 minutes. I got to do that. Numbers, 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 numbers. There's something called a sensor that we'll define here in a minute. That sensor thrives in that space. And the minute you think of anything creative, it's like, are you kidding? You don't even have time for that. Numbers.
Right.
You got to go. You got to go. You got to go. And the day turns on what I call go mode, and I'm out. Like I'm out. I'm just into my day. What happens when you do morning pages? And I'm going to read some of my morning pages. This is very vulnerable. I do this to every class to try to set a tone here that this is a safe place because this shit sounds insane. All right. Like, yeah, it's bad. When you get up in the morning and you just start writing, and here's how mine write almost every time. This sucks. This is ridiculous. I use a couple of words that I probably shouldn't use. And then my mind will go to, and for whatever reason, I'll be like, I'm craving chocolate. Who the hell wants chocolate at 7 o'clock in the morning? And you just read through it. They become a dump for your mind to dump everything that your sensor is going to try to trick you with for the day. And this will make more sense as we go through the book. Like I said, we're jumping ahead. But if you will just dump your brain out, you can call it free association, free writing, whatever you want. Forget grammar, forget punctuation. That's a nightmare for some people. I love it. I just burn through it because I hate doing it. Right. I go super fast. And the faster you go, the better. Yes, it's a mind dump first thing in the morning. And you would be amazed at the crap that's in your mind when you wake up in the morning.
That's fascinating. I've never done anything remotely like that.
And people are like, oh, well, I journal. This has nothing to do with journaling at all. Unless your journaling is just pretty nutty, I mean, because a morning page is crazy. It's very nutty, When I first started doing this, like 19 or 20, I went back a few years ago and found my original morning pages. It was all sexual. It was all sexual, like morning, wake right up and talking about, I'm not gonna say it, but it was all just, I'm like reading it like, dear God, get this kid some help, like it was embarrassing to go back and read it because it was just free flow of thought.
Yeah.
And what you'll find out is your morning pages are where you are bitching and complaining.
Okay.
And that's what it's supposed to be. This fucking sucks. I could be sleeping another 20 minutes. This is stupid. This is that. Get that out. Purge. Just purge that crap out, and you will be amazed at how your brain works.
What type of time frame are we looking at? Because I saw a question in there. Is like, do I have time to get a cup of coffee? Like cup of coffee and
Yeah, yeah.
scribble.
And I want
Okay.
everyone listening to please be careful of legalism. You know what I mean? Like, be careful of making this is creative sabotage 101. When you talk about doing something and people are like, and I appreciate the question, I'm not mocking the question, but one of the ways that we resist this kind of exercise is overthinking it, looking for all of the, well, I'm messing up because I got coffee before. Bullshit. Get your
Yeah.
coffee, sit down, and write. And get angry when you're writing. See, I had and can have anger issues because of my childhood trauma.
Yeah.
When I do morning pages, they're angry, dude. Like,
Mm.
they're angry. And then the rest of my day, I'm not just like jovial and happy, but I'm not so easily triggered. I'm not so frustrated and on the edge, and I'm not using so many mental resources to deal with society. It's
Mm.
positioning your brain. And like I said, we're gonna get into that a little bit more of the science of it and what it actually does. But everybody freaks out over morning pages because it's not fun. Like, who wants to get up and start writing? Very few people want to do that.
Well, and also, Damien, I think in colors, or not even colors, just shapes,
Sure.
physical shapes. This is going to be a huge challenge for me. I'm up for a good challenge,
Yeah.
but I'm
Well,
not looking forward to it. This is going to
here's what I
hurt.
got. Yeah. And I that's why I come at this with kind of a heavy weight, because I don't want to pretend. I don't want
Mm.
to play. We're not
Yeah,
looking forward to this, dude. You know what
the
I'm
kid
saying?
gloves are
Like,
off.
we're not. But if you'll do it for just a few days, you will get hooked on the results. You'll
Mm.
absolutely get hooked on the result. You know?
Is it like opening up new neural pathways, kind of a thing?
Yeah. Yeah. And
Oh,
so I could talk about this for days, but I need to
okay.
lay this groundwork. So let me come back because we answered a few questions, but I'm just going to say, everybody just be calm about the morning pages until we get to it. It doesn't have to be 3 pages. If you only do it for 5 minutes, great. The longer you do it, the better it gets. And yeah, I mean, for some people, it's 30 minutes. I was so pissed and angry that I had to do it. I'd get it done in like 10 minutes. I'd just be like, and guys, I have whole pages that say, fuck this, fuck this, fuck this, fuck this. You don't have to use the word, but if you're not into it, just write "this sucks" over and over, and you'll have the same outcomes. All right. It's
Oh,
not
man.
creative writing, it's a purge. So
Yeah.
I'm going to jump back into the book here.
I'm such a perfectionist that I'm always afraid. It's like, oh yeah, I didn't do my proper punctuation. Like, oh gosh, I misspelled that. It's just dump.
Yes, it's dumb, it's down, it's dirty, it's ugly. And I mean, honestly, you should barely be able to read it. It should be
Okay.
so fast and so gross. So, those of you that are into penmanship and all that, let it go. This isn't calligraphy, this isn't anything. Just burn out your pages.
Well, I think my poor penmanship has already prepared me for this exercise, so this is perfect.
Yeah, excellent. So let me move forward. And again, I'm just gonna say I get excited, and when I get excited, especially when I'm working and helping people unlock, I tend to cuss. So I hope that's not offending anyone. If it is, I can't change it. So I'm not even gonna lie. I'll try my best. Um, so let's get back and center on the fact that creativity is not. We all hear this, Max. I know you hear this. Oh, you're so creative. I wish I was that creative. These are just misconceptions. You cannot be created and not be creative. You just
Mm.
can't. It doesn't even make sense. The creativity is in you. In fact, I believe, just like Julie Cameron does, that's our natural state. So I work with children who've been severely traumatized at super young ages. When you watch children play, when you watch the imagination that children bring to everything, to a stick, to a rock, to clouds, that is where we all started. And we know that as we go through life, when we're told to grow up, be more serious, be this, be that, we get all into it, right? We look back and we become adults and we look at kids, we're like, oh, to be that young again, because we think it's the age. It's not the age. we had to adapt to survive through these traumatic moments. So we just shut down whole systems. Um, One of the most heartbreaking things that I've ever witnessed, and I think this has happened to all of us, but this is a dramatic picture of it. When a child is experiences severe trauma, they instantly become an adult mentally. They instantly have a hard time, and when you read the study on this, it says they forget how to play. So a kid can have their favorite toy playing, something horrific happens. The next day, they don't they don't want to play with their toys anymore. They're just like, they're jaded. They're angry. The whole world now is weaponized, and they have that PTSD response, right?
Yeah.
That has happened to all of us, whether we can admit that or not, whether we have been stomped so many times through life where our response was, don't play. I have an 8-year-old son. We went hiking today. He says this all the time. I don't ever get hurt unless I'm having fun. You remember, and it's true. You'd be on your bike, having a time of your life, jumping homemade ramps that you should
Oh
not be
yeah.
doing.
Oh yeah.
Smash, you're cut, you're scraped, and you remember as a kid, you'd get a little bit of sadness because you were having so much fun, and now you just wiped out. Can you remember that energy, that feeling?
Oh yeah. Especially when you get the wind knocked out of you.
Yes, yes.
Oh yeah.
Or you're playing with a friend and you wind up getting too hurt and your feelings get kind of hurt, right? That is
Mhm.
what all of us have done as adults when we try being creative at all. Hey, I had this idea. If someone goes, that's ridiculous. Well,
Stomp.
that's what I get for trying. That's what I get for making a suggestion, right?
It's
It's our
delicate.
natural. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Hey, it's delicate. An
It
idea
is.
is very delicate.
It is. And Julia refers to, and her prose is gorgeous, but she refers to creativity being the bloom coming out of the green stem, this fragile moment where this flower begins to shape. You don't get any more delicate. You don't get any more fragile and precious than that. And then somebody just steps on it, right? I I think that this is such an important piece. And let's be honest, I'm going to say this a lot. Think about and capture your thoughts. Everyone that's watching this, listen to the resistance in your mind. If you're
Mm.
hearing this and you're like, oh my God, this is feely good, whatever, that is your brain trying to protect you. This is not feel good nonsense. We were all born creative with the intention of being creative to further creation. We all are born with the ability to physically create humanity and create from our mind. So if we're sitting here now as adults and we're basically just choked out creatively, there's only one reason for that. And it's not because you're not a creative. It's not because you don't live in a creative city. I live in Wiley out in a bunch of farmland. All right. It has nothing to do. If it was up to me, I'd live in the Mediterranean but these are all things that we come up with. That's why so many writers in particular are alcoholics because they got to drink. And she talks about that. Julia Cameron wrote this book after she got sober. She she said something, Max, that was so beautiful. She was like, my writing and creativity was a time bomb. I would start drinking and then I would be prolific until the fog started closing in on my mind. And she talked
Interesting.
about the anxiety that she had because she knew as she's pounding vodka and tonic, she knew that she only had a limited window. You
Right.
know, Stephen King came out and said it on Oprah that he was drinking cough syrup for 20 years. 20 years he drank cough syrup at night. Kind of explains a lot of his scripts in his books, but he would put himself into an insane place and then pass out and sleep through the next day for 20 years
Wow.
because he didn't believe he could do it without putting himself into a state. Now, if this is the only thing that we talk about today, it'll be a success.
Okay.
Being creative, Max, is not putting yourself in a state. There There are states of flow. We've all heard that. There's states,
Mhm.
man, when you're out there swinging the hammer and you know what you're doing and you're not even really thinking. You're just like in that flow state, right? And we love that. But that's not being creative. That's getting out of your way.
Mm.
The only thing that's happening when you're really in a flow state is that you're being a kid again.
Yeah.
When I watch my son play, he's not over there going, "Okay, I'm going to plan I'm going to plan a play date and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to use these Legos and I'm going to use this toy and da da da." And then he goes out and he just starts to play and he's lost. He's lost in that play. We can all get there. And now check in with your mind. If you're a professional creative, instantly this is where people are like, "Yeah, I got deadlines I have to make. That's not going to work." Does that ring true back? I'm not picking on you, but
Oh, it's tough. Yeah, it's hard. It's really difficult to pretty much put like a timer, right? Back to numbers on
right.
your creativity. It's very difficult.
Well,
But I mean, I definitely have learned tools to evoke that sense of wonder, that sense of childlike play.
yeah.
I'm excited to uncover more, but I
Well,
think somehow I was able to hold on to a little nugget of it
yeah.
to be able to do what I do today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited to do a deep dive into this.
Well, I would say out of the creatives I work with, which is, that's my day job, is working with creatives like yourself and doing all the things that I do to help people with like, with merchandise and their business and all that. Out of the creatives that I work with, you definitely have retained a lot of the sense of wonder. That's why you and I connected right off the bat. Um, I want to make a distinction though, because people get this confused. There's commercial creativity, right? Where you're doing something to sell it, which is awesome.
Mhm.
But then a level above that, or however you want to think about it, the foundation under that is just creativity
Right.
without a deadline, without a price. So, what I want to say to everyone on here that is a professional creative, and undoubtedly we have several, I'm not challenging the way that you do business. I'm challenging the way that you feed yourself creatively. We're working on the foundation, okay?
Yeah.
So, yes, you guys still have to make, here's my cat. Yes, you guys still have to make everything. Say hi, Piper. Oh, don't
Oh,
spoil it.
Piper.
Piper. Um,
Cute.
you still have to make those things, but the purpose of this course is to talk about the foundation of your creativity, right?
Right. Peel back those
Um,
layers.
yeah. And so I'm going to keep checking in with people about the thoughts that come in to your mind as I'm talking, because that's resistance. That's your mind sniping at you, trying to protect you from something. But there's so many assumptions built into that. There's so many assumptions that keep us from playing. So
Yeah.
what Julia does is she's created a series of exercises that really just help us learn how to play again. It gives us permission as adults. I'm 47, I'm almost 50 years old. And guys, I have time that I schedule and I play like a goofy kid.
That's
And
beautiful.
it is beautiful and it's uncomfortable at times because I'm a father of three. I've got two businesses. I have a wife. I've got all these things. I need to be responsible. I don't always have as much money as I need. I'm not always as far on a project as I need to be. Yada, yada, yada. And now I'm going to go over here and play. Your mind just attacks that and attacks it. And that's
Absolutely.
what this is really about, is helping you feel comfortable to explore your own sense of play and creativity again.
That's amazing. And I think you mentioned it when if you had someone that growing up was like, you need to get serious, you need to get a real job, blah blah blah. And it's amazing how good we get at mirroring those messages
Yeah.
and pretty much continue them on even after long after that person's gone.
Yeah.
We will continue that on repeat. It's
Yeah.
where it's like, no, no, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to be working, you guilting yourself, punishing yourself. So if we can unlearn a little bit of that,
Well,
and be a little bit more joyful, be able to create more, just truly from the source.
right.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds amazing.
Well, let me read this to you. I try not to read too much directly from the book, but there's times where it kind of helps anchor us.
Okay.
In her introduction, she says, "In a sense, your creativity is like your blood. Just as blood is a fact of your physical body and nothing you invented, creativity is a fact of your spiritual body and nothing you must invent. It's what we are. It's what we are." And just because we have been raised in a society that, for whatever reason, good, bad, I'm not going to dig into it, we are raised in a construct where you have to make money. It's capitalism over here. Whatever you're doing has to make money. Why? Because things cost money,
Yeah.
right? So it makes sense that we would grow up with enough trauma. You get enough dings, you get made fun of enough, you get turned down enough, whatever it is, you just get busy making money.
Yeah. I mean,
It,
just to
it's
breathe costs money. I mean, it's not like we're out here getting really expensive things. Like literally just
no,
to live requires money.
yeah. I'm going to read this one quote real quick. Why indeed must God be a noun? Why not a verb? The most active and dynamic of all. Now, again, if God is a trigger for you or whatever, we're talking about source. We're talking about the creator, that creative energy. But we talk about it like it's a person, place, or thing.
Mm.
It's an action. It's a creativity is God. God is creativity, and that is a verb. That is something that is working current. It's here. It's oxygen. We're
I like
breathing it
that.
in. We're breathing it out. We've just masked it and masked it and masked it to fit in, to survive. I,
Yeah.
Max, I got to tell you, when I started getting into Camp Wonderment and working with all these therapists that we hired and all that I've told you about, if the average human knew how much our brain is a reptilian brain, evolutionary, literally just protecting you from everything, you'd be astonished at how often your mind is just protecting you. Just like,
Yeah.
nope, don't talk to that person again. Why? I don't know. They made a certain look on their face that reminded you of a look your dad made when he disapproved of you when you were 4.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. It's so powerful. And without exercises, we don't really ever get a chance to unlearn and learn things again, to have that
Mm.
renewing sense of creativity. Um, I've been talking straight. We're at 42 minutes, and I want to make sure, and we can kind of mix it up.
Of
But
course.
I know there's been so many comments. Should we
It's been
address some of the
amazing.
comments?
Yeah, I've been reading them.
Okay.
Actually, one of the biggest ones that jumped out to me was does it have to do the morning? What the hell? What are they called? The
Morning
morning
pages.
note, morning pages.
Yeah.
Do they have to be handwritten, or can it be on keyboard?
Fair question. I've always done handwritten. She says to do it handwritten. I
Okay.
can't imagine that it would be like a horrible thing to do a keyboard. I understand why people would want to. There is something about the tactile nature, of just there.
Forcing your hand to do the things. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something there, and trust
Okay.
me, it sucks that much more. But the good that comes from it, because how many of us really sit around and write on paper anymore?
Yeah,
You
this
know?
isn't the 1720s.
Yeah, I mean
Get your quill out.
yeah, it's. Oh, I wish I could read that comment. Somebody was just talking about being a first responder. Did you catch that one?
Oh no, I didn't. I don't know how to. Ooh, maybe it's this. Oh, nope, 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 not that. Oh, I'm afraid to touch
Yeah, I
anything. This is
know.
my new.
Well,
But
maybe Casey can help us find it, but a first
yeah.
responder will 100% know what I'm talking about.
Mm.
And it's the way the mind works. So maybe they'll pop back up, but we'll definitely get into that more. That we talk about first responders and dealing with creativity. Actually,
I
um,
could not imagine because creativity is vulnerability. I at least I have found in my experience from being an artist, from trying to take back vulnerability from people
mhm.
that didn't deserve it. Um, whew, yeah, it's very interesting. And I couldn't imagine going through something that, like, yeah, a first responder goes through, and letting yourself be vulnerable, letting yourself be very open to,
Yeah.
that's got to be tough.
Yeah. There's something here that Julia said that I love. Now, she's a writer and a fantastic writer, but
Okay.
I don't want people falling into the, oh, this works for writers. It works for everything.
Okay.
But one of the things that she decided to do when she was blocked, which is Julia Cameron's basically main goal, she used to be hired by studios to go in and help writers that are on contract get unblocked. Okay.
Got it.
So she decided, instead of me writing and having to put myself in this alcoholic stupor to be inspired and write, what she said was, I'm going to just allow things to write through me. It's not me. It's not the front of my brain. I'm just going to allow it to write. I'm just going to allow
Mhm.
this creative force that's in me to write. And this quote has helped me so much. She said, get out of the way, let it work through you, accumulate work, not judgments. Accumulate
Oh,
work, not judgments. I almost got that tattooed on my arm, but I didn't want to have to always see it and live by it, right? Like, I wanted to be able to go in denial when I wanted to. So,
right.
I mean, what a beautiful statement. You know, don't don't worry about what you're writing. Don't worry about what you're creating. Again, I'm not talking about business creating. I'm talking about creating.
Yeah.
Just accumulate bodies of work. Just finish it, move to the next thing. Finish it, move to the next thing. And most of us have heard from prolific creators, people like Rick Rubin, who has a book out right now on his creative process. It's in the volume of work, and that perfectionism makes our vision go to where this is
Yeah.
the only thing that we can create, and it better be great, or we're never creating anything else.
I have a
And
huge problem with that.
me too, buddy. Me too. And it's part of what I'm dealing with in Camp Wonderment is I've got so much to create that I'm so focused and none of it's right.
Right.
So opening up the iris, so to speak, to where it's about just get work, just get the work out. Been a filmmaker for 20 years. I've written scripts and have hired screenwriters. The best screenwriters I've ever worked with wrote an insane amount of content. I mean,
Interesting.
it was like a barf bag. Blah, blah. Every day they just puke, puke, puke. And then, holy crap, did that just come out of me? Yeah, it did. Because you purged all the other crap. You know, it's
It also
volume.
sounds it also sounds like time is a little bit of the essence, where you have to strike while the iron's hot, and give it time so that your judgments don't have time to kind of get in.
Right, right. It, and that's the beauty coming back to morning pages. So
Okay.
we've got like 15 more minutes of this hour. So I want to explain morning pages
Okay.
because there's a lot of interest around that. The I like this analogy. Whether you like chiropractors or not, people are kind of one way or the other. We use the artist way, and morning pages in particular is like going to a chiropractor and getting your spine adjusted. If I have a weird pain in my arm and wherever, I can go deal with that. But a lot of us that have experienced good chiropractic, we go get our spine aligned, and a lot of other things kind of disappear. Headaches, weird phantom pains, all this stuff. When you get your spine in alignment, what Morning Pages does is it kind of snaps your consciousness into alignment. Like, hey, you are the creative power. You
Yeah.
are part of that source. You're not grabbing for inspiration. You are. It's just you're grabbing outside of you because you had to shove all of this down to survive adolescence. You know, none of us got out of adolescence without trauma. None of us
100%.
got out of it without humiliation and pain. People say it all the time. Oh, to go back and be a teenager. Are you out of your mind? I would never go back. It was so painful, you
Yeah.
know. So think of the morning pages as a way to start your day of aligning your consciousness of
Mm.
who you are. Now, My wife's an accountant. She does morning pages. She goes to work. She has a prolific day as an accountant. It doesn't mean you do morning pages and then you call in sick to work and you paint all day. You know, it's whatever you're doing. The part of your brain that is opened up is problem solving. The problem solving abilities that come from morning pages is the number one reason that I do it. It's
That's interesting because that's something I struggle with. Also, I've been seeing the chat bringing up imposter syndrome and not wanting to start a project because they're not ready or the time's not right. Like this all rings so true to us.
oh yeah.
But oh gosh, I totally forgot what did you just explain? I got really inspired there for a second. Dang it.
Uh, I was saying that about problem solving. So when you start
Problem
the day with
solving.
morning pages, yeah.
So yeah, that executive executive function disorder, whatever the hell that is, that
Yes.
is tough. That is a
Yes.
hard thing to overcome. I get paralyzed so often of like, I need to do this, but I can't do that until I do this, and I feel like I'm standing on my own feet.
Yes. First of all, that's really well explained. That's a perfect way of saying it, where you're like, you don't know
Uh,
what to do, and you got this, and you got this, and you got this, and you
yeah,
got this, and then somebody like my wife comes along and is like, step one, step two, step three, step right. But I'm a neurodivergent. I've got a lot of those things, and what has happened for me is when I do morning pages, even if it's one page, 2 pages gets really good, 3 pages, I become prolific. And it just comes from, yep, that comment right there. It comes straight from the creativity. So I'll go to a meeting with a client that's having a problem with a resource, and I'm like, boop, like, have you thought about this? And
right.
nobody's thought about it because you're able to be who you are
Yeah,
and be able to see in a broader sense because that iris is opened up,
right.
right?
And I'm also there. I know there's a lot of neurodivergent people in the chat here. Not to call you out, it's out of love,
No,
but
no,
I'm really excited for everybody here to go through it as well.
yeah.
Because I have so much room for growth, and I can't wait to see where it takes us.
Yeah.
But in everybody else's life, I really hope that this alters their state a little bit. This is really exciting.
Well, I told you we're not going to get all the way through all of this in this first.
Of
There's
course,
just, there's so much. And so what I want you and everybody else to really accept, there's no formal way that we need to go through this. What I would ask everybody is, first of all, by now you've been triggered a few times. If you haven't, this may not be for you. I mean, you may be like, no, I'm good. And maybe you are. I have no way of knowing. Neurospicy, that is a fantastic term, and that needs to be a
isn't that
t-shirt.
great?
That needs to be a t-shirt. Um, but for those of you that this either hit home or it felt a little, or if you caught yourself with some resistant thoughts, I'm just going to ask you to read the introduction if you haven't already. I know some of you, very studious, probably have already read it. There's a point here on page 3 where she calls the basic principles. If you'll read the basic principles, because the introduction is her explaining the spiritual aspect, explaining how we're all just beat up kids. And then when you get to page 3 on mine, some of you have different versions of the book. There's the basic principles, and then it goes a little bit more into the tools. And Max, I think it'd be good if next week, instead of going into chapter 1, I think we should have the second half of this conversation next
I
week,
love it.
where we go more into this.
We don't have a plan. Let's do what we feels
Exactly.
natural.
So,
Yeah.
with the remaining few minutes that we have, I want to do my best to talk about morning pages because what I'd like to ask anyone, if you will try morning pages for 2 to 3 days, I'm asking for a commitment, not to me, who cares? I'm asking for a commitment to yourself. And if it doesn't resonate with you, don't do it. I, there's nothing worse than watching people force themselves to try to be creative. It's horrific,
Yeah.
right? Um,
I've
award
done it.
shows. Award shows are like a really great example of people trying to fake spontaneous creativity, and it can get really painful, right? If this does not resonate with you, just don't do it. And come back to the class. There's other exercises. There's no exercise that's as complicated, or I shouldn't say complicated, as difficult and as painful as morning pages. That is ground zero. It's the one that generates the most results, but it is the most painful, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, sounds very crunchy. I'm
It
not
is,
looking forward to it.
you know, and I like that energy. Let's just not even BS about it. This is not
No.
cool. And a lot of these classes happen around like 10 o'clock in the morning because I don't want to wake up too early, right? Because I'm not a morning guy. And what'll happen is you'll watch people walking in, and they got their coffee and they got their book and they sit down, and I mean they are salty, like in a bad mood. My wife's boss, just the other day I ran into him at a theater thing we're at, and he's like, I still can't do that. It puts me in such a bad mood. I'm too busy. I can't afford to go there right now. So
Yeah.
let's just be let's just be real. This may not be the right time for you to do morning pages. Try it. Do one day. You might not get anything from the first day, which is the worst because you're just going to be like, what did I just do? You know,
Well, it's like
but
exercise, right?
yeah, exactly. It's going to take a minute, but the second day you'll start feeling or sensing something, and get up, grab a drink, grab a coffee, use the bathroom. If you're like me, I'm a hygiene freak. I got to brush my teeth. I'm not sitting down with dirty breath and doing this. It's already bad enough as it is. I'm not doing it. And just freehand as fast as you can. I don't care how big, how small, none of the principles that we're worried about matter. Try to get 3 pages and then put it away. Do not read it. When I talk about reading mine, I went back years later.
Oh,
Do not read it. And please, for the love of God, hide it. Hide it. Because if somebody else comes across that and finds it, it's going to be weird.
yeah.
Right? So hide
Yeah.
that, man. Like, hide it.
Okay.
And it's just your own private thought stash. And just write it out. There's literally no other principles. You don't need to have a
Okay.
quiet place. You don't need a writing place. You don't need, just sit down anywhere you can and go and write. And
Awesome.
try that. If some of you will try that and commit, and maybe you already know, maybe you'll put in the comment. If you're brave enough to say, I'm committing to do 2 to 3 days, put it in the comment. Not everybody wants to, be on the line for that. I'm committing to it. Max, you don't really have a choice. You need to commit to this because we're doing the
Yeah.
class, right? So
I'm hooked up.
tomorrow morning is the first one, and then day 2, and then day 3. And if you
All
want,
right.
text me the minute you're over and be like, that's the worst freaking thing I've ever done. And I'll be like, yeah, me too. I've been doing it for 23 years and I hate it.
Dude, let me tell you, there's nothing more unnatural for me than this right here.
Good,
Than right first
good.
of all, writing and not drawing pictures. I used to take all my notes in school, pictures. I draw pictures of what, and I'd be able to so much better create that information, create those neural pathways to
Yeah,
remember everything.
yeah.
So this is going to be crunchy. This is going to be hard,
It,
but I'm here
it's
for it.
gonna it's gonna be a struggle, which also, by the way, forcing your brain to do something that it doesn't do, we already know
Exactly.
has awesome benefits. But I'm not even worried about the neuroscience of it. Just try to get through 2 to 3 days. And when we come back together next week, we're going to finish the rest of the introduction. So I ask everyone to read the intro and read the basic tools. And there's 2 exercises that she talks about in the basic tools. And I can wrap this up in a minute.
Perfect.
Morning pages, we've talked about at length. And then the other one that nobody has a problem doing is the artist date. I've been married. This is my second marriage. I've been married for 10 years this year. And when we got married, we had each of us had a kid, so we're a blended family. And then we made Ronan, and it's been family, family, family. For a decade, we didn't date. We never went anywhere together. We didn't do anything together. And we've all heard these stories. Over time, you start feeling like strangers. Over
Mm.
time, you're like, man, I see you all the time. Yeah, when we're making dinner and cleaning dishes and chasing kids. The weird thing is when my wife and I decided to start dating, it was really uncomfortable because we had gone so long without just sitting together. We weren't
Yeah.
sure what was going to come up, right? Is it going to be grievances? Is it going to be arguments? Is it? And some of that actually happened when we first started dating. And what therapists explain is that you're uncomfortable with yourself, and it's just a fact. Most of us, if not all of us, are uncomfortable spending time by ourselves. We're afraid of what we're trying to keep out. We keep ourselves super busy. Most people that aren't creating, the number one reason is they don't have time. We don't create time for ourselves on purpose. It's a
Mhm.
subconscious thing. We don't want to be alone with our thoughts. So the artist date is a commitment that once a week for 1 to 2 hours, you're going to go do something. The only rule is you don't take anybody with you. No wife, no kids, no pets, no squirrels, nothing. You don't take anybody with you. Squirrel would be
Okay.
pretty cool. Um, my artist date, I'll go to Hobby Lobby. I don't know if you guys have those where you are, but it's a craft
Oh, we got
store.
Michaels though.
Yep, we got Michael's, and then I'll go there for like an hour, and then I go to like Lowe's for an hour.
Oh,
And
nice.
I walk around, and my mind, after about 15 minutes, just starts popping. Oh, I could take this and do this and turn this into this, and I could do this and this and this. And your brain, you will become a child on your very first artist date.
I
You will
love that.
experience the joy and the energy on the very first one. So she talks about both the morning pages and artist date at length in the intro. So if everyone will read that, and then next week let's come together. I want to hear some people's experiences on both of them through chat,
Absolutely.
and we'll just
Yeah,
pick up, keep going from there.
we definitely have some committed people here in the chat. I'm excited for. I mean, I'm really looking forward to unlocking some serious layers here in my own creativity because I feel like I'm only just getting started here.
Yeah,
But I'm really excited for everyone else's journey as well. This is going
yeah.
to be really cool. And
Well,
on my Discord, I'm sure people will be talking about this workshop as well.
yeah. The last thing I'll say, and then we can close out, is you know, anytime you get multiple people together with a similar focus, really amazing things happen. And
Mm,
so I don't know anybody that's on this other than you. Um, but I want everybody to understand that I treat this as a very sacred experience. You don't have to, but I this is really sacred to me. Allowing someone to talk to you about your wounds and your trauma, and literally poking at your self defenses,
yeah,
that's some sacred stuff. And
100%.
I
Love
deeply,
that.
deeply respect those of you letting me do that. And I appreciate that. I know that I did not ask for permission, but you came, and that's what this is about. We're going to form a relationship with everybody here over the weeks that will be incredibly powerful. Um, where there are two or more gathered, there's an energy there in that group, and I'm super proud to be a part of it. I really am. So thank you, dude, for doing
Oh,
this.
Damien, we're happy to have you. This is going to be profound. I'm already planning on my artist date. I have a coffee shop I love to frequent, and
Right on.
just take a sketch pad and
Oh, heaven.
just have some fun.
Yeah, heaven. Awesome.
Awesome. Damien, this has been tremendous. I'm super excited. I feel like you remember in like Indiana Jones, The Last Crusade, where he's doing like the step out and he falls onto the
The
illusion
leap
of
of
the
faith. The leap of
the
faith.
leap of faith.
Yes.
It's kind of what I'm feeling like. I hear John Williams music in the background. It's all here.
Great reference, man. Throw a
Oh,
few pebbles out in front of you so you can
yeah.
see that there's really a bridge there, and you're good to go, baby.
Oh, bud. Yeah, super excited, super appreciative of your time. I'm really excited to really just go on this journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're
And
going on it
also
together.
for all of you in the chat, thank you for joining us, and I
Yeah.
hope to see you next week. We're just gonna keep this going. I'm gonna post this live thing so you can rewatch it. Yeah. Any closing statements, Damien?
No, man. I want to be mindful of everybody's time, but please, please give yourself the benefit of trying the morning pages. I'm just going to keep begging people to try that.
I don't think anybody's dreading it more than I am.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think anybody else is either.
All right, buddy. Have an
All right.
excellent night.
All right, man. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.
See ya.